and it just makes the strategy that much more interesting.
Well, let's get into some more draft strategy then as we are into Champions Select for our first game between these two. Azir, the first ban there for LGD, has been constantly banned all week and last week long. UP, if they want to answer with Cassiopeia, can, but don't have to do it just now.
You know, exactly. We want to see what the priority is. TBQ, will they actually ban away the Sejuani? Will they expect to see the LGD that were narrowly pipped by EDG? Will we see a new LGD come through? These are the questions that we do not know the answer to. Fan, who was there in week 1, really didn't convince. He died in lane a lot in 2v2s. Definitely couldn't set up TBQ in the same way that PYL could. Godvi gets the first respect ban, though. Orianna out of the champion.
And Orianna's been seeing a lot of play this weekend as well, so I like the ban quite a bit. Godvi kind of led the charge in the LPL as far as strong Orianna play went back in the tail end of the spring season. Siva finally going to get a ban. I like that a lot from LGD, just saying, you know what? Let's just play a bit more some more straightforward League of Legends.
It might actually be the first Sivir ban of the week. If not, it's in single figures when it comes to Sivir bans. And this is Imp, who recently said in an AMA that this is his favorite champion to play is the Sivir. He's played so much Sivir, been so consistent on that champion. Hecarim is also banned. The Sivir Hecarim duo that's gotten through to so many team comps banned out on both sides.
Yeah, so Heck taken away there as well. You can see Acorn talking to one of his coaches, figuring out, hey, what are we banning last year? And you have to think PYL back in the lineup might even provide another voice in the draft here as well. So PYL, such a strategic player, adds so much at so many different levels, both on and off the riff. And LGD, they're running out of time for this last ban here, but I have to know that Acorn already knows what he wants it to be. Acorn, please? Acorn, no. No, it's Kalista.
A blue side Kalista ban. I was going to say, well, there's no question about UP's ban. You have to ban that Kalista. That Imp is 7-1 on the last 8 games, but they actually ban it on blue. Now I'm feeling pastry time that maybe, given their sort of abbreviated practice phase with PYL coming into the lineup so late, maybe they just have a pre-planned strategy and don't care what UP take, because it's surprising to see priority picks for LGD banned on blue.
What's the first thing you think of when you say PYL pre-planned strategy?
Well, I know what you're thinking of with your smile. You're thinking of Bard Boys action. We have not seen enough Bard so far in the LPL. I don't understand how Korea is pipping us out. We started with the Bard. Why can't we have more of it?
I don't know, but if anyone's going to do it, it might be PYL's. The last ban is Cassiopeia, so the standard response there from UP with the Azir banned away for LGD, and plenty of good picks here. Rek'Sai's open.
All the junglers.
Supports are open. Yeah, all the junglers are open. Who's the other? I forgot already.
Alistair's available.
That's the other one.
LeBlanc's come through.
Oh god, yeah, she's good there as well. I mean, plenty of picks here coming through for LGD. One champion I was thinking of has escaped my mind for now, but LGD with the Alistair that you mentioned could take it, but might just go for TBQ and his Rek'Sai.
I mean, I personally would have thought about the Alistair just because it's a blocker pick to LeBlanc, but I don't think Xiao Yang's probably going to be pulling that out. There is always the potential. Picking LeBlanc into Godfrey, one of the masters of the assassin, would be super risky. There's a choice of junglers. The other strong jungler that comes to the obvious one is Gragas. If you want to match mid-game aggression, Sejuani, if you're willing to pull it into late, you probably don't need to commit to a jungler at this point, and there's such a strong champion pool that would have understood maybe just leaving Gragas for the next rotation. But Amy, he's moused over for this long. It looks like they're heavily considering just picking it up.
I mean, it doesn't give much away, I guess, is the reason to take it. And there have been some instances where Rek'Sai top has been a thing and made a flex pick for IG specifically, but they actually take a top laner here by the looks of things. That is Rumble there, likely for the jungle, and Long currently with Smite Teleport, but has selected the Rumble.
And I wonder if that's a blocker pick to a really strong mid-game comp coming through from LG, or just the beginnings of one for UP. You've now locked in the Rumble. He's going to have a decent laning matchup, even in tough matchups like Na, for example, who can harass him in lane. It's all about using that first couple of equalizers. Not quite Destiny in terms of cooldown, but such a devastating team fight ability. They have to really be on top to make it work. PYL's back in the lineup, and Bard's at least going to be considered.
Yeah, they're going to at least have a bit of fun here with some hovers. I like the Aurelia thought as well here. Acorn, of course, one of the world's best Rumble players, will understand how to play against it as well. But LGD going to take it a little slower here. Lulu for a solo lane, but we do have a Bard.
See, PYL, this is why we needed him back in the LPL as fast as possible. Locks in the Bard. We love to see it. Was actually reviewing the Samsung Galaxy game where they played Bard TF really, really well. I love the strategy they were using. Those Bard TF Gnar in that game. You could still put that together in this particular match, but looking unlikely given they have both Lulu and the Bard on the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, they could, I guess, take
It's still
TF
possible.
or Nah, but yeah, probably not both here. LGD, we'll see what happens, but already lots of utility, lots of support, and a strong standard jungle. Imp might be setting up for a big hyper carry here. Maybe even Jinx is something that comes to mind, and Sketch. I like this hover for this reason. Urgot, great anti-carry. They are going to take it away there, so probably blocks Imp, and that's a Ziggs there as well.
And I'm going to say, I actually like the other pick they've gone for, Ziggs. When you see Bard, you think, okay, global shenanigans, very possible. Split pushing, always a risk when you're playing Rumble, because if he gets behind in lane, will only really pick up team fight items. He never really builds for lane, so he can kind of be preyed upon. And that's some quick locks. It's the return to the mid lane Varus.
Yep, mid lane Varus back once again. It's not just for Pawn anymore, it seems like, but Imp, I said hyper carry, that's what they want to go for. So lots of good peel, but Varus to wombo in with the Bard and potentially Rek'Sai and the Lulu Wild Growth. I see what you're doing here, LGD, and I like it a lot.
I do not see what LGD is doing. It's so hard to understand this, and they spent so much time being creative, let's say, debuting picks like Bard, just going crazy with picks like Misfortune and Ashe out of meta. Is the nicest way I can say that. Then when they put a comp like this together, I remain to be convinced. They've got some very strong champions, good poke in the mid lane. They've got the Vayne, they've committed to it. Imp also in his AMA, and it tells you to always read interestingly into the AMA space return, because he was like, yep, there's no reason to pick Vayne whatsoever. And there's the Vayne.
I mean, Imp loves Vayne. He actually has a decent record on it when he has played it for fun or for otherwise here. LGD assembling their comp. That is actually Lulu top lane, so the lanes will break out sort of as expected given all those picks. Last pick, Braum's actually interesting, but I like it again, especially against the likes of Vayne and Varus with that double AD. Interesting stuff from both sides. I think we've come to the right game. PYL, welcome back to the LPL. So glad you brought Bard back with you from, I believe, Korea, actually.
And so many of those top meta picks that just fell through the draft because it's all about innovation. It's the Bard coming in. It's the Varus mid. The only Pawn has really dared to play so far in the LPL, of course, over in the EU LCS. Power of Evil, loving that in the mid lane. The coaches shake hands, and they've both got something creative to bring onto the Rift.
They have here little sneakers maybe as they shake hands, but Lulu Rumble in the top lane for our first matchup there. Rek'Sai versus Greg. Okay, this is all standard so far, but it does not get. It only gets weirder from this stage onwards.
Yeah, the mid to the bot side of the map is really where it gets interesting. Godvy's going to be debuting that Varus, has seen so much of this play from Pawn, and now wants to do his best Pawn impression.
Yeah, Imp versus Scat. Vayne versus Urgot feels rough, so I have to imagine that LGD lane swap might be back in PYL. What better champion to have in your lane swap than the roamer himself, Bard?
And look, Vayne versus Urgot as a 1v1. Of course, bot lane's a 2v2. As a 1v1, that's already looking painful times for the low base stat Vayne. Let's just add in the fact that the support's Bard who wants to pack up and leave lane whenever possible. A non-laning support and a non-laning AD carry, if that doesn't shout lane swap, nothing does.
Well, we're going to have to find out because we're about to go on a magical journey. And welcome back, everyone, to our first game between LGD and Unlimited Potential. PYL and his pretty new faces joining back into the lineup. And of course, the Elderwood Bard is back already.
Be careful what you wish for, Patreon Time. I asked for Bard, I got Bard. We got Bard Vayne, though. That's definitely a curveball when it comes to lane strength. I mean, you look over onto UP, definitely a very strong laner as Urgot after the first couple levels. Honestly, there's a window at level 1 and 2 where Vayne has a lot of counterplay against Urgot if we do see 2v2 action. And Braum is kind of a hard support to rate. His laning phase is not great, but there's always situations where he really excels. So I feel like it's still going to be a lane swap opted into from LGD because there's so much downside in the extended laning phase for Vayne and Bard.
In general, I feel like as far as Vayne comps go, though, this is actually a pretty well-built one for LGD. They have a lot of good tools. We already talked about the Lulu there as Akon actually going to meet with long trading blows, but Flamespitter really out-damaging the Glitter Lance early on, but Imp swapping back there. PYL's here as well. Goes in for the flash, gets the double Cosmic Binding Long. Forced to flash out. Imp, though, is going to get stunned by Braum. He gets exhausted. Long goes down for first blood. Shield's still there. Amy's joining in the top as well. TVQ's even coming in for a go, but PYL, he's going to get flash autoed and stunned there as Hart and the Braum passive give UP the first 2 kills. Now Akon trying to get away. He does have his flash. He's forced to use it, and Unlimited Potential end up with the early win.
And the craziness that was predicted from the champion deck rolls over to the level 1. It's been a while since we've seen a first bite at level 1. Take 3 kills in the first 2 minutes. Amy had to skill the Body slam at level 1. Still going to be fine in the jungle. He's going to get a bit of help from Braum.
Yep, so going to take away that blue buff, which means TBQ's forced to start on the right-hand side of the jungle. But they actually do get the lane swap LGD after all that trading. So I don't know if it's just an extended way to sniff out where your opponents are going, but it works.
It's just, I mean, you were talking about the LGD comp and liking. I can't say I agree in the fact that they have a very, very squishy two-threat comp. They've got Bard, who can situationally do a bit of peeling, but usually is better for maybe getting an opportunistic pick with the Q, the Cosmic Binding as you refer to it. Only a one-man frontline in Rek'Sai, so you just worry that if Rek'Sai doesn't get tanky enough, if Rek'Sai falls behind, Lung overheating the bottom lane, that's a potential double kill if the Rumble gets going.
Yeah, PYL is going to come back down as well and maybe look to set up a gank here. And I agree, in lane, some real problems here for LGD early on, but if they can make it work and get to the mid-game, they have massive teamfight potential. That's what they're looking for in the mid-game.
They have massive turret-taking potential.
They do too.
For sure. They have 4 ranged champions and a Rek'Sai who can do a lot of creative turret diving. So turret-taking, they are very strong at good poke coming through from the Varus. Going to expect the standard Mana Moon into armor penetration build to come out. Maybe even the Black Cleaver, but you're not going to necessarily get all the auto attacks in. Honestly, you're more about cooldown reduction. Just spam the Q off cooldown.
I mean, I think looking at comps there as well, frontline's really not either team's forte here, as you are going to have a dive set up long. Figuring it out, it looks like staying far back from his turret. He's actually got 2 people coming down as well. Braum is on the way in. I believe the jungler as well as PYL. Magical Dawn is his way in, looking to find a binding, but Amy shows himself. Hart does as well. Gets bound to the turret, but everyone's going to be safe.
You could just see that the UP members thought, cool journey, bro, when they saw him come through. He was never really going to go aggressive when 3 members were there in the bottom lane. So they have to back away. I guess the reason why I'm referring to LGD's comp struggling is that Ziggs is very good at controlling space, and you can't walk over that minefield if you're squishy. 4 out of 5 on LGD going to be pretty damn squishy.
Yeah, I mean, Ziggs has to eat a Varus ult or a Bard ult pretty much, and they have to kill him in order to start a real fight. But they have good options apart from that. Be curious to see where it goes. But again, both teams really throwing at something different here for the first game.
How I expect team fights to go, and I love theory crafting about team fights, and specifically on this UP side, is honestly just swap someone in if you're Urgot, further displace them if you're Gragas, and throw out the mines, because no one will be able to walk over those mines. One person will die, and 5v4 will be what will eventually come out. I love space control comps with Ziggs, because especially if you don't have true tanks, in the Cinderhulk meta you often do, but in this particular case you don't, Lulu's roaming bottom. They're going for a very opportunistic turret dive, but this is risky.
It was a nice dive actually set up there. PYL's going to get the kill. Imp, though, could be in a bit of trouble. They're going to maybe go back in onto Hart, but can't tank any more turret shots, can Imp. And again, binding into the tower, condemned into the tower. Akon there just to make sure they're safe. It's a lot committed, but they do get the kill.
Yeah, surprisingly well engineered. I saw a red member coming and thought that there would be cavalry, but it was only Braum, and he was too late to help. So the kill goes down, starts to arrest the gold lead. In fact, it's all tied up at 6 minutes in.
Oh, PYL, though, went for a bit too magical of a journey here. Good binding onto Xiaoyang, but PYL's going to walk through a couple of mines, and Xiaoyang should be able to get the kill. Does so indeed, and PYL's Bard falls. Probably not for the first time in this game.
I want to say baited by a chime, but honestly, I didn't see Beishu time.
I don't know either. They could have spawned there by now. It is past 5 minutes, but he was going to, I think, just to get some vision down and maybe spotted a shiny chime too many.
I just found a laughing yordle that ended his life.
Yep, dead there, unfortunately, in the mid lane. As actually will go back for, no, not yet for Xiaoyang, but Varus has gone back to shop, so a tier of the Goddess now completed there for Godvi. Vampiric's up to double Dorans for Imp, so you can tell why that dive was so successful. Imp actually had 2 Dorans when they started it, and what's been a weird sort of lane swap, because Imp's back in the top side with Long and Hart now down in the bottom. But as you can see, Urgot versus Vayne, as soon as that E lands, it's just bad times for Vayne.
Vayne has tumble, so can defensively move back a bit. It's 2v1 here.
No, PYL's going to try and make it 2v3. Amy's going to join in as well. PYL misses the binding.
Gets the
Akon
stun.
gets flashed on. Good stun in there, and Long, he's going to get that
It
kill.
was sitting on 3 applications of the Braum passive. Braum bar, that's communicated. Sketch falls low, but so does Vayne.
Yeah, Imp almost going down. Has to shoot a couple of minions there for a bit more lifesteal. TBQ does join in, going to try and get a kill, but Imp's going to be forced back relatively soon, although Sketch, not that much health either. Ultimate is up, but he's not that healthy with no summoners, and LGD going to start to pressure this top turret.
Yeah, quite simply, it's 2v1. Very smart of Imp to call over his jungler. TBQ getting hidden in these lane swaps. He's getting called by his members. He doesn't have to look for selfish gank choices himself. that hides him in terms of his decision-making, which was very off in week 1. And one of the best ways to deal with a terrible lane matchup is just call in the cavalry.
I mean, we talk about why LGD are so good in these lane swaps, and it has to do with almost their entire team. Godby likes 1v1ing people. Imp is actually incredible in these 1v1 situations, especially when he has the champions like Vayne that he can really get early farm on. And PYL loves to roam. Everyone on this team just gets unlocked.
And their rotational play is very savvy with PYL. It was awful last week, so it's good to see them already on the front foot early in the game. TBQ and Heart fighting, always really risky to just duel with a Bard, because if those stun stacks come through and the cavalry's there, the kill pressure is quite high.
Yeah, Braum does good damage. He's best in those skirmish or pick situations, but TBQ is going to be safe for now. Godby and PYL actually packing up. Looks like blue buff might be coming back. TBQ started it. Godby's going to want to pick that up and should be able to get it. Oh, Ziggs, good ulti. TBQ burrows back in and just manages to live.
Yeah, but awkwardly, TBQ is the one that actually takes the blue as well. Godby needs blue buff. Very high mana cost on the piercing arrow. And in the first 9 levels, actually, before you get 5 points in that ability, you just do not have a lot of lane presence, especially compared to Ziggs, who can just bomb the wave or get bored and alter and roam. So a lot more flexibility coming out of Zhao Yang, and now laning phase gets more difficult for Godby.
And look at Imp and PYL going back in here despite the level disadvantage, really trying to get some kills down. We normally see them swap back to the 2v2 and say a Bilgewater Cutlass has been complete, but I guess he's sort of built his own with double Dorans and a Vamp Scepter.
It's double Dorans and a Vamp Scepter, but crucially, Urgot hasn't got the back. He's not stacking anything at this present point. And remember, Longsword does not even build into the Manamune anymore. So he's in this awkward spot where he needs to start stacking the tier. Maybe he wants to buy a complete Manamune. Regardless, he doesn't have wave control, and he can't really look to harass or clear. And this is the result. The harassment, and Imp actually has some semblance of lane control against Urgot Braum.
Yeah, good bind there from PYL, but Braum protecting with the Unbreakable, so Imp's follow-up damage not quite there. TBQ down the bottom, going to clear out of Pink Waters. Acorn's starting to get a bit more farm back. He's really been the one to suffer. He's 25 to 50 CS down currently, but if anyone can come back from this sort of situation, this is the last piece of LGD's puzzle, why they like to swap around as Godby tries to steal the buff but doesn't quite get it. Acorn's always good with few resources as a top laner, and even though he's behind right now, he'll be just fine on the Lulu.
It's a pretty low item ceiling to be relevant. You're really just looking for the 40% CDR, and then any bonus AP you can get is a bonus. It's just the result of how Lulu will play out this game. Probably going to be ulting Rek'Sai wherever possible for the double, the Burrow into the Wild Growth, double knock-up engage. And again, just so they have one functional tank, regardless of the items that TBQ is able to complete. Urgot really needs to find this time to shop. Finally pushes the lane animal back, gets the Manamune, but still, Miramon is going to be significantly delayed, looking like 25 to 30 minutes on that ability.
Yeah, it might be Phage next, actually, for Sketch moving into Black Cleaver, as he does have the components of a Phage. Imp also goes back, finishes his Bilgewater Cutlass, and has a dagger to boot with some extra potions as well. So everyone's sort of getting towards their first major items. Godby now has his Manamune ticking up as well, and the Cinderhulk is almost done for both junglers, with Xiaoyang also having his Athenes. Haunting guys for long wins. As I said, everyone is doing just fine here at about 10 minutes in.
And in terms of power spikes, got to hand it to UP. They're definitely the one that should have the control of the dragon. They're 2 kills up. Haunting guys finished on Rumble, so the start of that double magic penetration duo. Athene's completed for Urgot, and now the Manamune, and just the earlier power spikes of champions like Urgot mean that if they want to opt into Dragon, they should have control. It's surprising that we haven't really seen the pink wards come out at all for UP, though. They should be getting those and get control over the Dragon.
They should, but good bind in the top side from PYL means that they're applying pressure actually in the Urgot lane. Urgot can't really push back these minions when they shove them in, and Imp's being aggressive enough, they're actually keeping lane control. So curious stuff from LGD, again, opting in for this big lane swap. Means that TBQ is now level 6, farming up safely. Acorn's in his 1v1, collecting a bit more CS. Everything's been fairly quiet at this stage. Even Godby, normally a 1v1 champion, is sketchy. It's another Cosmic Binding in the top side. On Varus, hasn't really had the opportunity to outplay his lane opponent yet.
The only team that's made, the only big strategic decision that UP have made is to maybe look for the dive on Acorn again. It feels like a dragon. I'm going to keep saying it is the logical place to go. Obviously, you'd prefer to have the 2v2 option in bottom, especially with Urgot having flash engage option at any point in the 2v2. Speaking of engages, some aggression, but Probably just a bit of controlled aggression. Doesn't look like the all-in.
Oh, actually going to swap there as well. So Imp now going to come and gets exhausted, pops his ulti, teleport down. Bard ulti tags 3 of them though, but that'll keep him safe. No, Imp! Flash autos there after the Rumble ulti. Godby's up in the top as well, but he's going to take way too much damage. Heal looks like to come through there as well. Heart's going to get low. TBQ's going to take him out. Sketch going to be the next one to fall down. A Rek'Sai, right place, right time as the Zigzag comes in. Does actually give Sketch a second kill. PYL now has to fight with his bar, but Xiaoyang's in as well. W pop for Sketch and PYL's dead.
But Sketch is a god. How did he live through all those auto attacks and harassment? Kept opening up distance. Rek'Sai could not control it. Xiaoyang comes in late, but Sketch take a bow. Known for the hyper carries, but pulled off some very impressive Urgot mechanics.
Better late than never there for Xiaoyang, and had the Ziggs ulti to at least contribute while he roamed back up as well. So Godby beats him to the punch and still managed to take it 4-1 in the top side, plus a turret for Ziggs as well.
And it was looking good for TBQ. I thought he might just rush down the dragon while all the commotion was happening top, but he came in aggressively. They were fighting very well with the ranged autos of PYL and TBQ scrapping, but just amazing outplay by Sketch, staying alive, punishing them for all these rotations, and suddenly a 3,500 gold lead has opened up for UP.
And you can see the Phage completed the Kindle Gem there as well now for Sketch. All those kills at 303 means that Black Cleaver is coming very soon. And we haven't even started the first dragon. As I say, that Sketch and Amy going to try and take it out here. And you look over at Imp there as well. He's got his bow, he's got his cutlass, but still about 700 gold away from the Blade of the Ruined King. So Sketch, complete control on Urgot, and there's UP's first dragon.
So this build has now become the de facto norm build for Urgot. We saw one Brutalizer Urgot that was deft earlier this weekend, but in general, you change your rune page. Before you were looking to get 10% CDR from both runes and mastery, so 7.5% possible to get flat from your blues, and there's 2.5% needed from the mastery. Sometimes people picking up 5% and some magic resist, as the ult's just used to wave clear. But the other big change, you just get 20% CDR from Black Cleaver, 20% CDR from Frozen Heart, and you're happy. So you just change your runes, maybe a bit more defensive on your blues, and go from there.
Yeah, so a bit tankier there, but everything's just fine, and you get so much CDR. The Black Cleaver applies on all aspects of physical damage as well. So you wait, Sketch will get the cleaver, get a lock on, and someone's getting chugged down. It'll be like Earth mode Urgot, just a little bit.
Well, it builds well and effectively gives you Fura Boots as Godby.
Yeah, Urgot's sorry, that's not Urgot, that's Godby. He's dead on the Varus there as Amy, a wonderful gang, sets out Jiang for the kill, but Gragas is the one to collect it.
He's just really, really squishy, and that's the worry for LGD, is that both their carries are super squishy. Usually, Ziggs needs his ultimate to do enough burst damage to take someone down, but one rotation without ults from either, he's dead.
Yeah, plenty of damage from Gragas there as well, and Amy being very proactive here at 201, putting them pink wards deep into the enemy jungle as well means that TBQ, we talked about it, not really a pressure-style jungler, more of a skirmisher and team fighter, and Amy right now running circles around the Rek'Sai at this stage.
Amy's aggression has been very, very strong. TBQ's played smart. Often he's been called to lane by people like Imp. His selfish decisions and his personal decisions haven't ever been the best, so it's probably best that he's rotating with the team with a strong shot caller like PYL. Dragon's already down, and LGD swap back. They've got the Blade of the Ruined King, so maybe Imp is just lining it up, looking for those headlights and thinking, okay, outplay, I can potentially get that solo kill. But onto Urgot, especially with the Phage and just 400 health coming through once the Black Cleaver is completed. Going to need a lot of Vayne mechanics. Imps definitely want to have them, but it's a big risk to try and all-in an Urgot.
I mean, he's just behind here, and all-in Urgot is always a bad idea as a carry. That's sort of Urgot's job, is to make sure you don't do yours. So we'll see how it develops here. A dragon up and actually 4,500 gold for UP. So have launched ahead now in gold at 9 kills to 3 plus the 2 turrets. And PYL and his Bard, his first game back on the LPL. I'm glad he's back to playing Bard, but they have not put together that team fight I described.
It's just a very scatter comp. Great wave clear in top, great wave clear in mid, super poor laning 2v2. So are they thinking about 4-1 split? That's a possibility. You can have Vayne splitting in the late game and just so much line wave clear between the Glitter Lance and the piercing arrow coming through from Varus, but you're so easy to turret dive. You're always going to have to respect the flash from Sketch, especially as he moves towards level 16 and there's enough range coming through from the ultimate. Amy's trying to cut off. That's a really nice equalizer.
Yeah, very nice. Acorn takes a lot of damage. Amy comes in, but Wild Growth will move in. Xiaoyang uses his ulti. Acorn going to get knocked back by the Gragas ultimate, and Long going to get a very well-deserved kill.
One small problem there. Amy did miss the flash body stamps. They had to use more resources than necessary, had to use the explosive cast when they probably didn't want to. Sketch is actually in 2v3 territory. Imp's just looking for aggression. He's looking for the swap.
The thing is, if Imp tries to go in like that, and he just gets swapped in. Like, if someone else is there, Imp is dead. So I think it's kind of a silly decision because either he's going to back away and you're not going to get the kill. They get the tower, it looks like, which is nice, but you either get nothing as you go in because they back away, or you get swapped in and everyone's there and you're dead.
I don't mind it purely because the turret was such low health that they could take it down. It was going to be a 2-for-1 trade, whatever happened, if we did see the ultimate come through. But smart of UP not to get baited in and just back away. One small other note about the Black Cleaver is that I think the overlooked thing is that because you get that Phage passive, the Rage passive that applies every time on physical damage, it's like having Fura Boots, but it builds nicely. Fura Boots almost always a luxury. You don't see that. But when you hit that first Acid Hunter, being able to have that flat 10% move, flat 10 move speed, just makes you more likely to hit the next one. Suddenly your spell rotation's that much smoother if you go for the Black Cleaver.
Yep, you pop W, people are getting slowed. All of a sudden, Urgot, kind of like Nah with the Mallet or the Cleaver.
And they're slower.
Yeah, it reminds you of Frozen Mallet Nah, right? Same sort of story. You're getting slower, they're getting faster, and you're getting chased down by a very scary-looking Urgot. So, I mean, Urgot now has actually finished his Black Cleaver, so he can talk a bit more about the damage potential. UP at this stage, Dragon back in a minute 30. They are looking for some fights here. They will take almost anything that's given to them.
It's a very peculiar pickaxe. With similar gold, could have started working towards the Frozen Heart. That's going to work so well against both the carries. Godby and Imp going to be purely physical damage. Not necessarily on auto attacks, but still Vayne, obviously very auto attack centric. Lulu to some degree as well. Auto attacks the story for all across LGD, so it felt like working towards at least that Glacial Shroud and the Frozen Heart would be a priority for Sketch. If he can swap in, disregard the damage, and just auto-attack an Acid Hunter, they should win a fight easily, UP.
It feels like Sketch is playing a bit more to his hypercarry roots there, wants to get that last
Hypercarry
whisper.
Urgot, huh?
I mean, sure.
There's no armor-based time at all.
It doesn't matter. They take so much damage.
They're already being reduced by 30%
More
from Black
reduction.
Cleaver, 6% from the runes, now an
Some
extra
from your E.
40. What's 40% of nothing? It's still nothing.
If its reduction actually does go to negative, so you end up getting more, but look, we'll see. I mean, Sketch definitely wants to build more damage. He should go tanky after that last wisp was finished up, but look, again, going back to some of the hypercarry routes, there was the blue buff's getting a pretty long contest over at Heart, though, going to zone out TBQ, and that blue goes to Urgot.
LGD just can't fight. They need to get a significant amount of poke down through Varus. And Akon, this is not a feel he's used to.
No, I'm getting killed by a Rumble. He's normally the one killing people.
Killed by a Rumble.
Yeah, he's normally the one killing people on the Rumble, and that level discrepancy is pretty brutal. 10 to 12, I believe, is poor Akon. So not a good look there for Akon, who's also 50 CS behind still.
It's probably going to be the return of Flame in Game 2, whatever happens. Flame the only one with a win. Akon had a really rough start to the season. He's still trying to perform his role, but with the role swaps, with the different lineup, and now just coming back into it, taking a while to warm up is this 5-man unit.
And I guess that was our question for LGD. How instantly do LGD, get back to that playoff form as now in a rejoined 5-man unit? And the question, at least for this game, is probably takes him a little longer than you'd expect. PLL does have his ultimate, by the way, so might be thinking about trying to line up a steal. TBQ actually going to go in, but Gragas will take it away. TBQ will tunnel to safety, but that's 2 dragons now for unlimited potential.
I mean, to begin with, LGD weren't group, but even if they were, they cannot look to fight 5v5. Ziggs will wreck all the members of the team. There's no magic resist, there's no health, there's no armor. They cannot opt in to fight against teams that have very high base damages, like this Urgot, like the Rumble. You've got 2 of the earliest power spiking AD carries and top laners, respectively, that are damage threats. And you just got nothing going for yourselves, barring Poke and maybe Siege from LGD.
Yeah, Shayang going to take the blue buff now as well. Quietly crept up to Athene's, and Alud and Zeko has Ziggs. Doesn't have boots because, let's be realistic, doesn't need them at this point. It's just been wave clearing away
Bit
with
of movement speed on the Lud.
Sure. I mean, but for the most part, been sticking in his lane with the blue buff, trying to wave clear where he can. Did actually take the tower, so Godby no longer has the option of just sitting at his tower and wave clearing. And Varus is getting a bit stronger, but Akon, he's so far behind. Athene's doubled Orans to Haunting Guy's Sork Shoes, an amp tone probably for Avoid stuff coming out next, and a whole Zonya is completed as well.
It's talking about items here. It's just not really relevant, Page Time. It's night and day between the 2 teams. The picks, though, from LGD, they're really a head shaker to me, especially the Varus mid. It doesn't really fit the style that we come to expect from Godby. The one thing that LG were able to achieve in their 1 victory out of 4 was put Godby on an Assassin, have him split push. If they had an Assassin here, maybe they could look for 1-3-1. If it was, say, Fizz mid, then they could have had Vayne splitting, they could have had Fizz splitting, and at least they'd have good wave clear coming through from the Lulu and counter dive coming through from the Bard. But as it stands, This team comp just does nothing, especially with the early to mid-game comp that UP have put together.
Well, they're trying to find a pick onto Sketch here, but Sketch is holding the way very carefully and trying not to overextend too far. He does spot Imp, but almost everyone is up here in the top side. Long is in the bottom, but he does have his teleport. Xiao Yang's going to be the only one to not make it instantly. Yeah, Bard ulti looks in, Condemn lands, but a good flash from Sketch keeps him safe for now, but the knockout comes in for TBQ. Swaps back in Imp though, but Sketch already dead. Amy though, going to catch out Imp, who's been swapped back into a bad position. Long going to come through. Massive equalizer. Zonya's burning away as well. Good ulti from Gragas. Massive zigzag, but TBQ, 3-man knockup. Hard gets a knockup though from his ultimate. Amy gets tagged by Godfrey's ultimate, and Xiao Yang coming in for big damage. LGD have to back off.
It was a very smart pick, so well played by LGD, but the moment that Ziggs got into position, there was going to be impassable terrain all over the place. So get the kill, back away. They're going to try and look for the turret. Again, they have good turret damage. They have good poke. That's the best they could hope for, was the pick onto Urgot. It was very well engineered, and it just so happened that at that time, both Amy and Hart were moving towards the mid lane, so there was no help whatsoever.
No, I mean, again, you could see what they want to do. Get the pick, grab the tower, possibly even grab Baron, honestly, and just try and get yourself back into the game. But Imp's going to work on this tower, as we do have a pause, and LGD going to have some time to think about this game, because it has not been looking fun for them.
Brom coming in very majestically during that, and heroically during that pause timer. LGD really have to examine what they've got. Then to pick up the pieces. Again, good split pushing, potentially coming through from the Vayne. The very flexible, unique thing about Bard is, again, very good at counter turret diving and turret diving himself, because of course he can disable both those big neutrals like the Baron, but crucially in this game, potentially, the turrets. It can create those situations where you split push with Vayne, and what would have been a 1-for-1 trade becomes 1-for-0, just because you can ult your own turret. You can do all sorts of unique things. If they can really use this Bard, there is the potential to do some creative things in the mid to late game. Samsung Galaxy did a similar thing with the Bard, Twisted Fate, 1-3-1 comp. It's just they have so squishy a backline and so much mid-game power on the enemy side that if Urgot swaps someone when they're trying to 1-3-1 or 4-1, that member's going to die, and so are the other members of LGD.
I mean, you saw they tried to kill Scatcher and then force a good fight, but Xiao Yang's the other problem that now comes into the picture for LGD. Ziggs is very strong in any sort of fight, and you mentioned squishies. It wasn't quite impossible. It's not quite impossible terrain with the minefield, but it might as well be, given that you walk through it and die, which is actually worse than not being able to go through it at all. So it's just problems about here for LGD. They've fallen behind in the early stages of the game, now trying to get a couple of picks to arrest control back of these objectives. But if the game stays in the position it is now, if LGD can't manufacture some really heroic ultimates between Varus, Bard, or any of the big team fight that they can actually initiate, UP are just going to continue in the same fashion with, I would say, a weird-ish looking comp, but maybe not as weird as LGD.
I think UP is pretty standard. The Brom is something different. Hart liked to play that when he was playing for Samsung Blue. Doesn't lane very well, but I mean, you're against Vayne Bard. You can pretty much pick whichever support you want against that lane. So got away with the Brom, and then Brom's so useful in late-game teamfights. Scales very well with levels when the Unbreakable and the Q are starting to get maxed up. You can be very, very strong in fights and make the Urgot even more inherently tanky with your W. So they'll team fight very well. It's a tipping point for LGD. If they had got Snowball going, there was always that potential that no one could split push against the Vayne. But given things being so even, it's hard to see how they'll engineer a win condition, barring, as you mentioned, pick into Baron. That was a very realistic possibility. EDG have shown many a time that you can just ignore the first 24 minutes of the game, get a Baron and win. Didn't quite pull it off, but there's still time.
There is time, and I think LGD, they've got experience, they've got PYL back in. It's a good test for him, actually, in his first game back with LGD's weird comp as we bust ourselves back into this game. You can still look there up on the scoreboard. LGD behind in pretty much every metric and about 5,000 goal behind is a general idea. Dragon not available just yet, so you're going to be a couple more minutes till that's back up. And as we said, items are creeping up at UP just ahead on pretty much every lane, especially that poor top lane. Akon's still so far behind.
I feel like Akon being behind is kind of the big hole in this cup. If Lulu had gotten on top of the Rumble, they would have had wave clear and top and mid advantage. If somehow Varus had got kill pressure, specifically with Rek'Sai jungle pathing, if they had got leads in every lane, they could have just split push and never team fought. But when the objectives start to pile up, soon to be third Dragon, soon to be Baron contest coming through from UP, you just don't have a comp to team fight to LGD.
I mean, Imp's down the bottom getting some farm, trying to work towards his Phantom Dancer, but he can't join them if there's any sort of fight happening on the left side of the map. And UP might be the ones to just consider forcing themselves onto Baron and making LGD come to them, because we've talked about it. Plenty of teamfight strength. Ziggs and Rumble are massive at this stage of the game if they want to have a nice big AoE teamfight. Blue Buff's going to lose again there. Poor Varus hasn't had a single blue this entire game.
You talk about Vayne, and obviously we think of Vayne as a hypercase. Just look at the team fight she's against. How does she do damage? Speaking of damage.
Good equalizer there. TBQ going to get stunned up as well, but looks at things. Swap actually comes through, but the Bard ulti prevents it from happening. TBQ eats a Ziggs ult as well, but creative play from PWL keeps his player safe. Is going to keep looking for another good bind. Gets a double, but not enough damage to follow up.
Yeah, the poke's very, very nice here. They have good turret damage coming through from Ziggs, but of course not from Urgot as a 425 range carry, and the rest of the lineup are melee. So wave clear might mean that LG can keep pulling it out. It's just that what does a team fight look that LGD are able to win? How does Imp do damage through the Ziggs space control, through Gragas and Rumble with their very high base damages, and just Urgot, who's going to obviously be training towards one of Vayne and Varus, whichever one's more convenient. Very hard to do damage. That's why split pushing, there is a lot of outplay potential against all these members from Vayne specifically, but split pushing is probably not going to be allowable when there's solo kill potential from a Rumble on a Lulu.
I mean, they've got plenty of CC. They just don't quite have the AoE to back it up, unfortunately. And, you know, if they can get a pick, I think at this point, that's LGD's biggest way to get themselves back in, is use all of that big teamfight CC, put it on just one person, try and get a key pick onto either Urgot or the Ziggs, and then take the Baron, like we've seen EDG do countless times. But UP keeping control of this game, and our next big tension point's coming up in 20 seconds as UP's third dragon will soon be there.
Sketch obviously listened to us, modified the build from a pickaxe for a bit of early damage straight into the Frozen Heart. Could have had the completed Frozen Heart at this point, but probably not going to be a big concern. You note, we talked about the fact that it was a late Miramana. Actually just transforms as we speak about it. 26 minutes, it's pretty delayed. Should have been about 5 minutes earlier, but that very long laning phase, no early tier, delayed it till now.
Yeah, TBQ going to get chased through his own jungle there as well. Finds a tunnel, gets to safety. But Hart chasing him out, going to put some wards down as well. And Dragon is back alive and unlimited potential, going to be straight on it. Imp's in the top side. He'll get a tower as a trade, but third Dragon here for UP, really starting to snowball that now.
I don't mind it from LGD. I've already mentioned the fact that I don't think they can look to team fight against this comp specifically now. So it's not a bad trade. It's not ideal to give up a third Dragon, but we haven't seen a lot of fifth Dragons winning games. We've seen teams get to 3 and then get stalled so effectively. So LGD, if they're just giving away a free fourth Dragon, that's going to be a big concern. But honestly, even their red buff is a step too far against UP's power.
Yep, too much aggression coming in. Amy, Sketch, and Hart all grouping together and able to make sure the red buff goes to Urgot, I believe. So good transfer of the buff as well. 3 Dragons also means all this rotation-heavy play is just fine here with the extra movement speed coming in. Imp did get the tower in the top side as well, so he's now got his Phantom Dancer starting to power up on the Vayne. But UP at this point is going to start to look towards Baron and see what they can see from there.
Just looking for a couple more items. If in 6 minutes the Randuin's and another Giant spell is completed for Rek'Sai, so she can be a pseudo tank, especially with the Cinderhole scaling and potentially the Wild Growth coming through. If the Death Cap is completed from Lulu, who's just so far behind. It has the 40% CDR core, but nothing more. And it's 2 champions with low ceilings. His Heart might be caught.
Oh, a flash actually means he is still slowed. Ultimate coming in as well, but it misses just there as Heart somehow gets out from under that Bard ulti and hops to safety onto Long, and that's a live Braum.
I just need to know whether he was untargetable for 0.2 seconds as he was casting the ultimate, or whether it missed. I could not tell, but either way, fascinating.
Yeah, gets away there, and Hart, we'll give him credit for it. Some smooth moves there to make sure he's safe, but things still looking good. Rabadon's now for Xiaoyang completed. That's a massive stack of AP.
He just has so much wave clear and poke. And there's no Aegis, there's no magic resist. Actually, I tell a lie. Aegis is completed on Bard of all people. Gonna be necessary, and it's certainly not gonna be enough just by itself.
No, and only boots 1 there for Xiaoyang. Finally investing in some shoes for his Ziggs, but still, again, throwing out some bombs, wave clearing away. Actually behind Godby on CS somehow. So funny how they've both been playing wave clear wars. Varus actually ahead there, at least for now, but Varus getting stronger now, actually has the QSS, but Long is still the one powering up. He's actually hasn't chopped in a while, it looks like. Got the parts of his void stuff. Has had the amplifying tone for about 5 minutes, I think. So going to be onto a void stuff soon. We'll be doing even more damage. Has the Leandrews finished up as well against his other major item. Frozen Heart just done there for Scat. It only gets better here for UP.
And when it comes to mid-game champions, Rumble and Lulu definitely often talked about in those regards. One of them has significant backline threat and his mid-game core. and the other one just doesn't really even have all of their mid-game core completed. They really want to see these large rod at minimum coming through to Lulu to be relevant in a team fight, but just struggling after being powered down, both in terms of rotations and the solo kills we've seen come through from Long.
And Akon's basically just relegated to home guarding between lanes and pushing back waves that can't fight Rumble. Amy, though, gets condemned. POEL with a nice flash binding, and Imp's going to get no. It's TVQ. Free kill there for Rek'Sai.
Wonderful layering of CC. Literally never dropped the CC, but couldn't even throw out a rage explosive cast because never was not CC.
And you can see TBQ's finally going to give Godvi, unless Xiaoyang has something to do with it, his first blue buff of the game, I believe. So if they want to pressure or at least get some poke or counter poke down, they can move between these lanes and try and start a siege. But one kill's good, a blue buff's nice as well, but it's going to take a couple more of those catches to get LGD back into this game.
And looking onto Baron, we see pings onto it. They've pink warded out. Now they're clearing out UP's pink ward. There's multiple members controlling the bot side jungle. So the reason you want to start it is to threaten Baron, just to relieve pressure off this inner turret, because Akon's communicating that he really cannot stand up to the implied pressure of Braum and Rumble.
I mean, he's 3 levels down from Long. I don't think he can survive just Rumble at this point. His heart actually going to start the ulti onto Godvi. Ergon swaps him in. Nice Ziggs ult there as well, and Godvi has popped the heal. QSS as well. Heart dives back in on top of him, and Xiaoyang, so much damage on this Yordle.
So much damage. They don't get the bot lane turret, but they're going to smash through the mid lane one.
That's without a Lich Bane, by the way. I know it looks like one, but that's just short fuse, the Ziggs passive, chunking out the turret. You're going to see probably on this next... Oh, we wasted it. Never mind.
So much wave clear. Instantly clears the backline with the Luden's prot. They're going to keep pushing. Remember, this is a poor siege comp, so any damage they get onto a crucial structure, like an inhibitor turret, it's priceless.
Still that last little chunk as well. The Ziggs passive doing a lot of work there. And without Godvi, it's actually kind of hard for LGD to wave clear. I mean, Lulu can help where she can, but yeah.
Yep.
Minefield goes down. Amy zones him out. The tower's dead here. Now the inhibitor opens. So LGD, they have to go in fairly quickly, but still don't have their Varus. UP will back away with the respawn timer looming, but base is now broken. They didn't even need the Baron, did UP, and they can revisit any time for a team fight in the mid lane.
So although we haven't seen a lot of Ziggs on this patch, and when we have seen it both in the LCK and here in the LPL, it hasn't done a lot of winning. You might wonder why. Why is it not the auto-win Ziggs it was in previous years? Lots of aggressive pings coming out from LGD onto Baron. Recall started, but not completed from UP, and they're going to probably sniff a rat.
It's pretty smart, actually. Only Long, the first one, the back there, gets himself a Void Staff and has his TP. We'll actually start it up now. So Amy, massive body slam there, moves Akon and TBQ back in, but Amy is going to go down as Imp. Kites around him wonderfully. Magical Journey trying to keep TBQ alive. Massive Varus ultimate, though, comes in as PYL's going to try and make something else work. He's kiting around. He's actually going to die there to Scat as a Q comes in after the lock-on. But a well 1 for 1 there for LGD, and they were unlucky to not get more kills.
Yeah, the Chains of Corruption in particular, beautiful from Godvi. So definitely has the mechanics for that hard-to-hit ultimate skill shot down. 1 for 1 trade, 1 for 2 trade almost as Heart almost falls down. Still very even. They get away from Baron. They haven't been able to spend their gold, and they're only going to get more powerful when they back IUP.
Yeah, TBQ actually burnt his ultimate fairly quickly after recalling, just to try and get some vision back over the Baron. Dragon, though, is what LGD are pinging. UP are lining up for their fault, so taking one away would be a nice thing here late in the game.
UP's vision has really fallen down around both Dragon and Baron, so this should be the first Dragon. The all-crucial 6% stats should be very, very relevant. Hart thinks about going to check it, then realizes, wait, got no wards in that area, have to back away.
And UP at this point should probably just use a bit of free time to go clear out all of the vision that LGD have set up. You just look over to the Baron pit. There's, what, 5 or 6 blue wards there sitting in the area. LGD, I mean, if POL's done one thing coming back, it's kind of teach his team how to reapply that long, deep vision.
It was dark maps coming through in week 1, and suddenly, not necessarily overward, just so many control wards, both offensively and defensively, is beautiful to see. So you can see that that communication has happened very, very quick on this lineup. Now that's back to the 5 core members. UP, they've given away the Dragon. They've had perfect control of the neutrals. So where do they go from here? They can't really afford to just give free time, because there's always that potential that 6-item Vayne outplays and rolls through your team.
Yeah, look, an unlimited potential are only 6,000 gold ahead, and that would be impressive at 33 minutes if this hadn't been the lead for quite a while. It feels like UP haven't accomplished that much in the last 5 to 10 minutes, and they're sort of struggling to figure out how do we actually end this game, because they're clearly ahead. They know they're ahead, but they haven't quite decided on a win condition, and losing that 4th Dragon does stifle some of their momentum, and it seems that they're dedicating a lot to trying to take this Baron, but haven't even made a good bluff at it yet, let alone try and take it by force.
Well, their only way to get either the neutrals or to break the base is by force. It's by smart rotation of minions in particular. The minion waves pushing against them in multiple waves, pushing against them greatly in top, to some degree just a very slow push coming through in bottom lane. They need to get multiple things happening because they have a poor sieging comp. Great poke, but poor turret damage outside of the short fuse single autos coming through from Ziggs. They want to try and force a fight around Baron. That's the only real place they can force a fight. But until they clear the walls, it's not going to be possible.
I mean, they can force around mid lane as well. The inhibitors, the turret's dead. They can just walk in and start a fight around the inhib. So UP are scared of more than just the Baron buff going away. And they're really committed to trying to take this. There's 2 pink wards on top of the pit.
There's 2 pink wards there, which gives them perfect vision. I guess the second one a bit more aggressive to ensure there was no wards in the back. But there's just those sly wards still ensuring that there's no vision baits required from LGD just yet. It will change soon.
I mean, Akon's split pushing at this stage, slowly building towards a Rabadon's level 15 now, finally only 2 levels behind, but TBQ going to get initiated on. Good condemn there, though, to keep Amy back. And LGD, if they've got one thing, it's good poke and some great disengage ultimates.
There's no ultimates used on that particular guard. All 10 ultimates available now. They're going to look to get this turret, of course, with ability power. You're going to train through those turrets as Lou with very high base attack speed. Pushes through, and UP, the indecisions of a rookie team are starting to really add up and punish them.
Yeah, and PYL's strong shot calling and vision game really helping LGD here. You can see UP feels like they've had at least 2 avenues to try and force this game. Acorn still in the bottom lane, by the way, pushing away, actually gets a wave onto the turret, and that prompts UP to go straight onto the Baron.
Their Baron damage is not wonderful, but Ziggs has so many items that maybe it won't matter. Braum is doing his best to zone. There's the ult.
PYL, nice ult to set things up. Heart's going to get low as well. Amy also far too low at this stage. Godby gets Scatch with the ulti. TBQ knocks him up. Amy's dead to PYL. Scatch getting chased in as TBQ almost goes down, but just stays alive. Now Godby aggressively flashes in. That's the double. Going to make it 3 as Heart goes down as well. Long might be his 4th. No, that's not the Quadra as TBQ takes it, but that's the ace and the Baron for LGD.
Such a danger to just give a team time, and the items came through, and so did LGD. Massively outplay the UP lineup purely off the Tempered Fate, adding 2.5 seconds on the time it would have taken to take Baron. Everyone got in position. Scatch was chunked out super low, didn't even get to use the ultimate, and LGD just completely outplay UP.
And only a few minutes ago, UP were what, 6,000 gold ahead. Now LGD find themselves 2,000 gold ahead.
So we're going to see the replay. Look at how low everyone's going to get very fast into this fight. Heart and Amy already completely chunked out. Scatch takes a couple of autos, but the chain of corruptions rains onto multiple members, and Ziggs, when fights are on his terms, are very strong. In this case, the flash auto from Godby takes him out with the Mura mana proc, and it's Lung versus 5, and there's nothing he can do.
And again, we talk about LGD, lots of CC just didn't quite know how they used it in a situation. That's kind of the perfect situation. Everyone's on Baron, you throw out the AoE, you funnel people through awkward chokes and use your displacement or control abilities, and LGD played that absolutely perfectly.
They're going to have to use their good siege to get something, or maybe they'll just get a pick.
TQ's just diving in at this stage. PYL trying to look for a binding, but doesn't quite get there. Akon going to come back. Amy, though, getting shredded as Imp's doing decent damage. Coffee on the side. Big Tempered Fate going to try and set something else up. TBQ, though, is going to die, but they set up the ultis. Massive damage coming in. Xiaoyang is dead. Scat swaps him in, but Heart's going to die. Imp's got a triple. Maybe gets the Quadra. No, it's not Akon. Steals the Penta, but Imp gets the Quadra.
And this is what happens when you get enough items onto a Vayne. She was the only real hope. Smiling is Imp, the smiling assassin, because they are stealing this game away from 30 minutes of controlled play from UP.
They've stolen this game from UP by the looks of things. It might not be over just yet, but this inhibitor in the mid's going to fall. The Baroned up minions going to help them on the way if they want to keep pushing, and they do. LGD going to try and finish it right here.
They got 4 members pushing in. Crucially, only Grog's available. Has the explosive cast. He should just use it, to be honest. He's watching these structures die.
Game's over there. Amy can't do enough. Imp's on the Nexus already. Going to kill Amy there as well, just to pad the stats. UP surrender before the Nexus can explode, and LGD come back in that game with a very nice, fresh PYL Bard ulti.
It's going to be a big confidence boost for LGD as Akon seems also a bit surprised they managed to pick up the victory, but man, I can only imagine what it's like for the UP side of things, who played so smart, drafted well against this kind of scattered comp from LGD, and then just kind of took the foot off the accelerator, gave them time to get crucially